Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. The title of today's episode is Build Your Life. And I would like to share it through the eyes of a designer more than just a mystic. You see, life is very remarkable. Our eyes open and we gaze upon an objective landscape, and this objective landscape also translates into an inner specific landscape based on the experiences of the individual. Sorry, guys. Just typing something. You see, the idea is this, that because we're conscious, that gives us something to do. And human beings, we identify due to a certain circumstance of living. Right now, you are a collection of complex cells, and that are preserved with a certain circumstance, a certain condition. Now, if the weather changes, if the planet starts heating up, pretty much we see, even through time, the stress of time on our lives, we see that what is built breaks. But what's fascinating is while our objective existence is reducing as we keep walking through time, our subjective realms are actually increasing. There's a thing about memory that the person can remember, but you can't see where all the other memories are, as if they were in a bag, and you just went, every time the person was remembering, they just put their hand in the bag, but where's the bag? Where's the edges of the mind? The significance of building your life is simply to see what hand you're dealt. The way society and civilization is designed now, people feel others are more interesting than themselves, not realizing that they only have the eyes of themselves. That means you can hear somebody speak, I could hear somebody speak about what it's like living in Japan, but I haven't been in Japan. So, Joy, as a response to your comment in the chat section, I hope you didn't mean it in a sort of moral sense, like the morning is good, it's not evil. But anyways, yeah, it is morning here. Anyways, back to this idea of building your life, back to this idea that you have the opportunity to build your life, back to the idea of how unique and rare it is to have the opportunity to build life. And as there is a creative dimension arising, it has to be in the space of another. That means right now where I'm living, there was another person living here before. And so the existence stays the same, and it seems like different experiential modes of conduct just occur. That means it's like the human beings being like, energy, what are you doing? It's like, energy, what are you doing, man? And energy's like, just being everything, bro. Sometimes I think that life is a balance between things, information, changing, and that change means something destroys, something is created, something is created, something is destroyed, something is destroyed, something is created. An endless cycle, the polar mind in full activation upon this earth. Alan Watts spoke about polar thinking. What does that mean? That means the human being can look at anything and be like, is it good? Is it bad? Is it nice? Is it not nice? Is it intense? Is it not intense? The person can see potential to the objective landscape, but that simulation of the potential is an inner phenomena. For me, it was so remarkable to discriminate what is an inner phenomena. Right now, these words, I can't touch them physically. You can't touch a concept, but strangely you can change a concept, create new one, and destroy a concept, but you can't touch the concept physically. You can shift it or alter it, but you can't touch the concept. That's something very magnificent about nature. That means I could call that a tree, I could call that like deracht in Farsi, but I'll see that regardless of what word I use, that tree is still a phenomena. And so when we realize phenomena don't depend on how we name them, we're going to free the objective realm from our inner realm. That means we're trying to, like human beings from their angle, we want to free our minds, and the world is like, human being, I want you to free me from you. Everybody wants to be free, not realizing that freedom doesn't mean freedom. Freedom for a multidimensional system is not one-dimensional. That means freedom in one dimension could be chaos in another. The world has many faces, not just people. Events and moments have many faces. You can say that knowledge is how human beings are looking at the same landscape, yet extrapolating different conclusions of it. That's what I realized, because I'm like, anything that we consider in that moment has significance, yet the moment changes. So what does that really mean about significance? Now, this idea of building your life, I have shared in other talks that we are conditioned into an emotional narrative before a sort of rational precision. It's good. It's an advantage that we are not like robots, even though some people are trying to be like robots. They're people who are like calculators. They call them mathematicians, But the human being is not designed to just to be an instrument for endless processing. The processing there seems to be a sub-program to it. That means even though we're creatures of nature, we can make decisions that are totally different than our environment. The fact that we can leave our environment, the fact that we can discriminate we're in an environment and we can relocate is just a remarkable evolutionary advancement. To be honest, when I was thinking about the title, I was between three different titles I was choosing. Like before choosing the title of this talk, I thought of titling it Build Your Life, or Time Will, or Nature Will. There were various options I was thinking. I was thinking Build Your Life, or Life Will Build You. Then I realized on some level that will make life too much of a multidimensional idea. That means for human beings, they can fathom a creator, they can fathom a creation, but to fathom the creator and creation being simultaneous means no reality is superior. That means man is the small. Man has gotten the smaller plate of food in this cosmos. We're not giant celestial beasts, We're not like planetary sized, you know. We are ants on our own hill. and our knowledge relates to our hill, but what if there's greater hills? You know? There is a point to make about the difference of building your life consciously and unconsciously, and to bring in a layer, a dimension of consideration of is, for example, the Taoistic mystical approach of this one collective flow of mind, presence of mind. You see, there's times in life where you can see something clearly, you can attempt to build it, it doesn't occur, it doesn't appear like that, you know? That means you might not believe it, but these talks are way more elegantly shared in my inner realms to me, rather than me saying it. That means I would say I'm right now when I speak, when I translate the inner realms, it is maybe 70% of its style is I can't communicate it because there isn't words for. There's a geometrical renaissance, a revolution in the psychology of the human being upon recognizing geometry as the source of everything that needs to occur. And when that occurs, discrimination goes away. And that's why in the subtitle I've written The Designer's Advantage. You see, life is a system where not only there is cause and effect probabilities, and it's a vast multidimensional system, but the unknown variables and the known variables, if each seen separate from the other, it will feel meaningless. Without the unknown, why do we need to know? If you know what I mean? If we were living in a picture, there would be no need for exploration. Imagine we saw the edge of our universe was some strange wall. Or imagine we notice the edge of our universe is like a wooden frame, and we're like, oh my God, are we a picture on the wall of some higher dimension? You know? And then we'd suddenly realize that at that point, if life is a picture, there is no known or unknown. It's static. But the fact that life is changing is the miracle of it. The miracle is change. You know? The issue is, Einstein pretty much gave us insight into this. Einstein said, we created time so everything doesn't happen at once. You know, and if there wasn't time, there wouldn't be a linear progression of a self. If there wouldn't be a linear progression of a self, there would be no individuality. That means we had to create time to be individuals in space. But nowadays, who's got the time to study space? People might not believe it, but scientifically, space is considered to move faster than light. That means the space of the world is moving faster than the light can move in the space. And we thought light was the, runner-up winner of the marathon. Who knew space was running faster than light? There have been moments where I have felt what has been built in the moment has not just been my personality. I feel energy at the way human beings have tried to define conscious energy is as soul. Like that's the way they're trying to define it. There was something, and something moved, and they considered that the mover was separate from, like the person. Just like how a person wears shoes, they considered that the body was the shoes of some higher dimensional, inconceivable movement. You know. First stage. Get 8 billion human beings out of the boxes they have put on their head. What will they find, 8 billion human beings, if they take the boxes of language and belief off? What would they find? They will find emptiness. I will say it boldly. And people are going to be like, Mr. Within, what is the point of it then if it's emptiness? The point of emptiness is you can build without a past. That means there's no such thing as failure. There's just turning the other page. That means, trust me, even if I make a mistake in these talks, I'm just gonna keep going on, turning the page and writing the next chapter, because the inner realms have a significance. You know, you have to find an allegiance of nature behind your eyes. That is not a concept. So building your life, if you're a collective being, that has a totally different implication how you would build something collectively. I'll give you a very specific very personal depiction of this. I mean, a lot of things I share here is personal, but this is like hyper personal. You know, like hyper speed. This is hyper personal what I'm sharing. There has been times in what we call thinking where thinking to me has appeared as an inner event, not just a dialogue, not just the voice, you know, not just thought, just words like subtitles moving behind my eye. That's not thinking. For me, it was an event, and it was the peak of intelligence of a lifeless phenomena is life. That means you might not realize it, dear listener, but you are the teacher of non-existence. You don't realize it. And non-existence is watching. But its eyes are not these eyes. Its mind is not this mind. The clouds part, and man sees the ultimate face. That there was a God named Amir. That means the clouds parted and the person's like, I'm going to see God's face, and it was a mirror. It's like, no way. No way. God's face is everything. Okay. You know, there is something about. Sorry, guys, I'm. Sometimes the painter, the designer, lifts his hand from the page and looks at the page without interference to then return to it. I want to get back to this point of building your life, its implication as a collective presence and its implication as an individual personality. What is the meaning? What is the value right now as the person is living an individual life? Could there be a collective force also working, or is it that the individual has to find the collective force, or is the collective force just the potential of the civilization, the society? You see, we don't know yet, and the cool thing about history is that it has a future, and its future can totally rewrite the past. So technically, if we were extremely conscious human beings, we would just for an instant be like, hey, we all realize we're on a rock in the middle of nowhere. Why don't we create a new modern universal person. I don't know how to say it, but you see, the more we know in this world, the more you see you don't know. There's a reason why Thanos holds Iron Man and says, Tony Stark, and says, you're not the only one cursed with knowledge. What he means is that the more knowledge you have, the greater the game becomes. Right? And so we have built a civilization on the foundation of knowledge. And so the more we know, the more unknown is going to occur. Now here's what's been happening. Just like how the alphabet hasn't been updating, more and more unknown events have been taking place, but human beings have been reinterpreting it through a past value. You know, that means a message to every follower of any idea on this planet. What if in all that time that you were following an idea, your species needed your mind to find a new idea? You know, you can travel to places that are known, or you can aim for the unknown. And if you're a temporary being, attempt the unknown. If you're eternal and you're bored of temporalhood, then you can sit on an island of knowledge you want. But since we appear as temporary creatures, since the music of the hourglass, the sands falling from the hourglass is time. You know, sometimes like in one talk I animated it, that just like how time is going forward, it feels like the sands from the hourglass of time are falling, and we are like super tiny, jumping from each sand to sand, trying not to fall. You know? Really, life at its core is nature's effort. And it's become personalized at some point. And the person is the key to nature's door. You see, there was something about the archetype of the sage. Sorry, not the sage, the mage. There was something about magic forgotten. There was a magic that was putting a box on people's head, as in through spells and language. But then there was a different sort of magic. There was the nature, the soul of nature. That means it's as if an individual mind originating an event. For example, if right now I lifted my hand and all the trees in my yard suddenly slowly lifted from the ground and started hovering towards the sky, you know, that would be where an individual, the inner realm of the individual has had control over the outer realm. So magic has been that, the inner realm trying to deceive the outer realm. But nowadays it's impossible. That means magicians nowadays, there is no magic left in the world. The world doesn't see magic anymore. The world is now seeing a different pursuit. That means we had magic, we replaced that with technology. Because I'm telling you, it was very intense. We are right now in the aftermath of it, so we're good. But in the early point, when human beings were becoming aware of the power and the significance of language, that's how magic and the idea of black magic and good magic, you know, white magic came. You know, it was a sort of manipulation of the environment through sound, but with hostility, with a sort of taking. Here's the thing, guys. You take, there's this next level. Like if I'm going to say, like when I'm going to, like I'm pretty sure this is going to surprise some people, this idea. But there was this mystic in this dervish tradition. I believe it was in a dervish tradition. This mystic was sharing, oh sorry, it was Attar. Attar was sharing the story of some other mystic, which I don't remember the name. And yeah, I think it was Attar. He said that this person found suddenly the archetype of the devil animated, and the devil said, this world belongs to me, you're not allowed to take anything from it. Do you know, it was that kind of idea, that this world belongs to duality. Do you know that means? Imagine there's four beings. There's four people in a classroom. Okay? Okay, there's four people in a room. Now, one of these people is the void dimension of space. One of these people is the singular dimension of all phenomena, is the singular. One of these people is the dual. One of these people is the infinite. Now, the infinite, we can't even find the infinite in the classroom yet. For now, the infinitism is like a dream, is duality's dream. But the room right now is being dictated by duality. What I feel was the archetype of the fallen angel in religion was another metaphor for the concept of duality. You take something for literal value, it's an opportunity cost. You miss out on its metaphorical value. It's a choice. That's what happens with belief. You know, you're trying to get rid of your unknown, not realizing you are the unknown. You just don't know it yet because you think you know it. Or it's knowable. It's not. There's a point in the state of minds. Many people who go through alterations of state of mind, whether, some people do it chemically inspired, some people don't do it chemically inspired. The yogis were known to use their breath in a way where the inner realms, like a yogi back in the day would renounce physical life and go live in their mind. But it's very impractical nowadays because in the future we will eventually be living in a mind. Because I feel like the face of my DNA. That's how it feels. I feel I am an expression of a design, and this design has the potential to build. Like a fox can't build a skyscraper. We don't see lions wearing suits, in front of the mirror and going to work, It's just that now life has always had a speed. Nature has been always building itself. It's just that we've arrived now to the scene, to the natural scene. It's like human beings were born. It's like, all right, guys, we got it from here. And the animals were like, yay, human beings, an alien has come to save us. And we started eating the animals, and the animals were like, holy shit, the aliens are more animals than us. We may feel we're civilized, but we have butchered many species towards extinction. We can't feel, too comfortable in our shoes. There is something that in one of my sci-fi novels I wrote that technology has advanced to such a point that human beings have made a liquid, a juice, like a drink. Okay, that the human being drinks 3 cups of this juice, and their body, it becomes as if like it's like people will live like more than 200 years, 400 years. It's as if it's the replacement of eating, because you see our civilization is becoming faster and faster and faster. And people who can't be content with the speed of civilization, they get out of the way. You know. Some designers they built their life not because of per se a purpose or meaning, just to see what it would look like. Something a lot of people don't appreciate, and you know what it is? It is themselves. That means there was a time where it was easy for me to accept weakness. I was identifying with my weakness. Then I asked myself, in all those moments I've been identifying with weakness, what would the difference be if I was identifying with the strong? And then I realized what the identification of the strong is. It's just continuity. That means the purpose of life is to get to the next stage, whatever it is. Now, the human being, like a chess master, can make some good moves. I feel that with patience, anybody understands the secret of patience, you will realize that if you wait long enough, your mind will give you answers. The mind is like a probe that can seek information from the inner realms. I'm telling you, we don't know how to use anything that's not a technology. So if we want to really use our minds to build a life, we got to comprehend it as a technology. But the issue with the mind and with building life is that it's co-creative. That means I really feel I am living on a civilization is built on a giant turtle's back, but the turtle is metaphoric, how there is a natural world here. So from a Taoistic perspective, you are the world building itself. From the advanced communicator's perspective, you're an individual who has realized the opportunity of being an individual. You know, back in the day, there wasn't much they could do, guys. There wasn't that much advancement. It was easy to be a tree back in the day, but not now. Now we have to be, honestly, roar in the streets of our civilization, or it would be like this, where in our inner realms we're living in a more advanced civilization. I don't, it's kind of hilarious, but technically it will appear as we are, there's a saying, they say fake it till you make it, but I'm telling you, it's not that, because you cannot fake something endlessly. That means you can't. Your nature, every person has a nature. In any activity you do, your nature will be seen. That means you'll see, like if an event is happening, not everybody receives the event as the same signal. So think as if like somebody shouts in the street. That's an event. Now that sound of the shout enters many people's ears, and the signal is received differently in accordance to every person's inner realms being, how their antenna is different. That means we are 8 billion receivers of signals. Of the same signal. I just thought of a story right now. I'm going to share it. Just noticed something in my inner realm. I'm going to share it. Imagine a person went to sleep. Suddenly they had a dream. In the dream, they're in the middle of space. And a voice comes and starts speaking. And the person in the dream shouts, is that God? Who's speaking? Is that God in space? And suddenly the voice comes and says, no, I am your neuron. A single neuron. Imagine. The person is dreaming and they're in outer space. Do you know? But a single neuron is speaking. And the person suddenly realizes they are seeing endless space, but the sound is coming from within. And the person in the dream says, what is it, neuron? What do you want? And the neuron says, to the person, we are waiting for you. Existence is waiting for your mind to live. You build your life like an eagle. Locate vision, non-local extreme advancement towards it. Let me tell you something I realized. Because when you read Sun Tzu Art of War, like for me, I have had many days just trying to fathom, if I was alive back in the day, what weapon I would use. If I was alive during medieval times or during gladiator times, or if I was in ancient Greece or ancient Persia, or if I was in anywhere, if I was like in the empires of Japan or whatever, what weapon I would use. I thought about that. You don't know how many times I think about stuff like that. I time travel a lot in my spare time in my inner realms, guys. And different times I've thought about a spear. I don't know why, like fighting with a long stick, like spear or something. I thought it makes sense because you reach the person before you, so if your aim is good, you can take down anyone before they even get near you. But when it comes to close combat, then you gotta like spin your way out of it. You know? Even fighting with a sword, you know. I thought about, would it be smarter to fight with a shield, or would it be smarter to fight with a mirror in your hand? Imagine you were alive back in the day and you had a mirror, and so you would fight in the daylight and you would try to blind the enemy running at you and then kill him. The ancient Greeks would say, to tame the savageness of man and make gentler the life of this world. Because the mind doesn't experience itself as a limited body, it can suddenly exert intensity. So when we study human psychology and wonder how suddenly a human being could do something extreme, we realize it's because the psychology isn't like a robot in one state. So as there's multiple factors, from the person's health to the person's environment to the health of their environment to the health of their inner constitution, you know, like people change in life, and the hard part of it is to see which sense of which version of yourself you are choosing to follow in the future. Because for me, the leader is really future. The concept of leadership is the future. Whoever's seen what's coming, they can lead. Whoever who hasn't, they have no clue. They don't know where to begin. The same intensity we had as warriors back in the day for fighting, that same energy should now be focused in regards to making it an intellectual battlefield. You see, that's the thing. People were fighting with actual swords. Now we're like, okay, raise the weapon of your mind. No longer violence, but intelligence. That means how did human beings somehow find an algorithm towards a very proper world peace? The algorithm was easy. We stopped seeing the world in pieces. You see, the person has thought they have to choose one side of the coin. I'm either this or I'm either that. In the Upanishads, the dude would go and say, hey man, am I this? Did I get enlightened? The person would be like, no, not this, not this, keep going. Because the person realized it is not a confirmation, it's not an objective confirmation. Because if your mind is not an object, What is trying to be what? You see the mystery unfold. So you think, I'm not sure what you mean. If you can re-elaborate or just try to rephrase the question, I can give you my sense on it. Anyways, guys, the focus is building, though, design. So I'm trying to, as Rumi says, before death takes away all that is given, give away all there is to give. That is really the value of life. You can share something while you have it in your hand, and it's like, believe it or not, your hand's not gonna be in your hand at some point. That means the world, after, let's say, 200 years, maybe like after 1,000 years, there would be none of us here. So we are a unique event. We are history's mind in fragments. This concept of building is crucial. Pretty much 3 dimensions in life and anything creative have to be considered. And people already have seen this, in everything, you know. What do I mean by this? That means it's the creative dimension. In Vedic thought, it was Brahman, which was creation, Vishnu, which was the maintainer, and Shiva, the god of destruction. These were archetypes. These were, for me, it's as if like the gods were the veils, were the dimensions. And God, the singular God, was the space where all the dimensions were in. So that means man, if he's experiencing all of life as one moment, how could his analysis surpass that? You see, it's like pretty much right now, for a second, whoever you are listening to this, strip away all names and personality and stories from everything. Just for a second, look at people. Just look at whoever you are. And for a second, just say, just like how in Photoshop you could make a layer invisible. For a second, just wonder if language and story and meaning and personality and all this wasn't there. You would be building from scratch. So the ultimate advice to any designer is get comfortable with the empty page. And if you are comfortable with the empty page, words will come to you. There's 2 types of authors, guys. Authors that are going after words, and authors where words come to them. The vision comes to them because they are able to see. It's an antenna thing. Honestly, I'm not joking. We're antennas. Like, the phones are made in our image. And technically, phones are proof that we have mastered the teleportation of sound. We have mastered the teleportation of image and sound and of color and space, but we have not mastered the actual. You see? I feel that life is like this. It's like Morpheus from the Matrix. There's 2 pills provided. What are these 2 pills? You trust the present and you walk into the future, or you trust your present and stay in the past. These are the 2 pills. These are the 2 options. Every human being you see, they are either defined more by who they will be, or they are defined by who they have been. Or if they are wise, they will realize the eyes that have been witnessing every thought, every conscious moment, It's like a piano key. Sometimes I feel just blissed out by existing, and it maybe sounds simple. I may be a simple man, in the sense that just existing is there's a joy in it. There's a joy of existing and being able to wonder about non-existence. It's a hidden gift of non-hidden being. For me, there is a geometrical language. Geometry is a blessing. The fact that we're aware of it. Everything has design. So I will tell you, I have said the most important branch of knowledge, the most important thing for human beings to study is language. I feel that's the case because I'm trying to advance the inner technologies of the species. If you were thinking of interstellar planetary life, I would say then outer technology science is very crucial. Science that listens to its siblings. Philosophy, religion, and art. We are just events. In one of my talks, I created this. I felt it was a really revolutionary concept. I created this idea of the eventum. I created this word eventum because I was thinking about the atom, and I was thinking about psychology, and I was thinking about the complexity of trying to link neurological phenomena, electromagnetic, to some degree of a consideration analysis of a signal system, to actual human behavior and psychology. Like, how can we connect happiness to neural movement? That seems to be a very complex question. And then I realized the issue is the deviation from the empirical and that which is being kept simulation-like. It took us 4 billion years just to be able to realize we're suffering. Do you know how much of an evolutionary advancement the acknowledgement of suffering is? Like, people are like, "Oh man, I'm suffering. Oh no." But let me tell you, I know it's a huge suffering is everywhere. But I'm telling you, Buddha even noticed this. But it took us 4 billion years to be able to even consider the problem. That's an achievement. Nothing will inspire you more than this simple idea that every day happens once. Then you'll understand why I'm saying it makes sense to become a conscious designer in this realm, to become a pilot of your consciousness, an advanced communicator that is aware of the advanced communication of the universal sector. We are now reaching a point where we require to restore communications with nature's mind as a species. I'm not joking. People are going to be like, wow, that sounds so tribal. What can I say? The future sometimes cares for how it sculpts its memories. There was this idea, Friedrich Nietzsche, this German philosopher, incredible mind. Even though most people, when they think of Germany, they may think of the Holocaust and the horrors of World War II. But let me tell you, at the same time, every nation on this planet has birthed the flower of great minds. That means knowledge is a collective victory. You see, it doesn't matter you're a scientist in one country or another country, one scientist's achievement, all other scientists are like, oh man, that's next level, you know? That's the thing. We must celebrate the spirit of collective victory. We must allow it to emerge. Here's the thing. It's like right now, what I feel is happening to the species, to civilization, everywhere. When I use the word civilization, I mean every dimension of society active currently. Civilization needs to wash its face through a new blueprint. We need to. The thing I was telling you about Friedrich Nietzsche is that he said he has this story. It's his Friedrich Nietzsche's. It's a Nietzschean depiction of Diogenes, the profound Greek philosopher Diogenes, and Friedrich Nietzsche said Diogenes, one day he was in the market, this, philosopher dude back in the day. He had a lantern and with a candle, and the candle was lit, but it was in daytime. It was a sunny day. And Diogenes is running in the busy market, and he runs to everywhere, every stand, and it's as if he's looking for something. He goes up to people, stares at him as if he's looking for something. He can't find it, he goes. And the people of the market are like looking at Diogenes, this like philosopher ahead of his time. Excuse me. And they're like, Diogenes. You could see like a group of market people just looking at this philosopher and being like, hey Diogenes, what are you looking for? You know? And they're saying this with a sort of comical, angle. But what happens is Diogenes comes up to them and looks at him and says, I'm looking for an honest man. That means cynicism was a reverse algorithm. Diogenes understood it was reverse psychology. Because human beings, their decision is also based on an emotional shift of information. You can say you're an accumulation of information, and this information is in a jar, and how the jar is shaped, emotions arise. How in the moment the foundation of the person is a coagulation of various events. Like sometimes when I speak and I say a word, you might not believe it, but every word has a memory attached to it. So for me, on some level, I am speaking to you, but on another level, it's like imagery. With every word, there's an image. There is some event, and I notice in every word I say the inner character shift. So I'm saying that it's like we are a movement of memories. And Diogenes realized that in order for civilization, I mean Friedrich Nietzsche's analysis of Diogenes, but Diogenes, he said he was looking for an honest man. That means to be artificial in this world is not realizing you are in a Ferrari. It's like driving a Ferrari at 10 miles per hour. That's where dishonesty takes you. Honesty means you trust nature, You look in the mirror and you're like, nature's got this, it's all good. We need a philosophical renaissance where human beings realize for the first time ever there is a technology where we can share our inner realms. Information that the person back in the day, like people before language, it was really harder, Like you can totally imagine before people created words, there was the frustration of two creatures trying to communicate, Linguistic professors say there was meaning before there was language. That means that the inner realm was active before we even had a way of speaking about it. And now Mr. Within is saying we have to add to the database, and we have to share patterns of our inner realms. That means if 8 billion human beings, they wrote journals, okay? They wrote an honest journal about how their mind is appearing. That means whoever you are, you know, even they should say this. For me, the thing is that one thing heals a person. It is the ultimate healing force. The ultimate healing force, guys, in life. And Dylan Thomas even understood this. The ultimate force is vision, which is space. That means it's like you see yourself climbing the tree and then you attempt it. You see yourself in the mirror, you know, and then you adjust. You see yourself in the world, then you pilot. The Yoga Patanjali Sutras, they spoke about consciousness as an orb. And Dylan Thomas, when he looked at his father on his deathbed, he looked at his dad, and he saw how life was fading, and he said, don't go gentle into that good night. Rage. Rage against the dying of the light. That means you are the effort of your moment. There is no good or bad karma. There is just energy that happens. That means it's like a challenge. So, like a good question to ask me if you're listening to this would be like, Mr. Within, you're talking about efficiency, you know, but how can we know efficiency without inefficiency? So that means we have to make mistakes to no longer make them, you know? And Mr. Within's going to say not the case, because it's like, think of it that the alphabet, if somebody tells you A, the letter A, what symbol comes? You see like a triangle where the bottom side of the triangle has been lifted up to the halfway point of the triangle, you know. What can be said? Human beings can escape many circumstances. They can survive in unbelievable ways to constantly get to the next phase. But one thing the person can't escape is themselves. Okay. What is the ultimate thing I could say about design? I mean, the design level frees you from the story level. That means emotions don't translate to just narrative. You notice the design of reality. As you notice the design of reality, you notice its integration. As you notice its integration, you're pulling the curtain, and as you pull the curtain, you're seeing that the edge of the curtain is behind your eyes. That the only veil to be pulled was man who could dare to look at himself again. And so the complexity of design arrives again with the teachings of simplicity. That means whoever you are in this life, whatever situation you think you are, just slow down life. Gandhi says there's more to life than increasing its speed. Just slow down life to a certain degree where you can understand how it's happening simply. That means any system that when you go to study it, if it seems confusing to you, you just have to look for how it was when it was simpler. And so when you see that this, we can say it's life and death, but for me, it's an oscillation from simplicity to complexity, from complexity to simplicity, and every part of the journey is like a new, its own unique view, you know? Albert Einstein says, you cannot solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it. That means you need to find new eyes if you want to find a new world. So the question is not just finding a portal to go to another world, it's finding also the ability that if you perceive another dimension poetically, how would you translate that? If you look at a lot of mystical poetry and even mystical texts, the teachings are that it goes to a point of non-dual where the world is moving before you are. So it has any sort of enlightenment has nothing to do with the psychological position or disposition of the person. It has to do with the simple instant awareness that the self is being. That means it's a great joy to breathe and also to be aware that it is in a breath that life is here. Who knew we're breathing this world into place? The person's like, are you thinking right now? It's like, if you want to call it that, but I'm pretty sure it's just breathing. You see, guys, somebody in the chat section says that boat is weird looking, but it's efficient. See, that's the thing. That's the MacGyver attitude. That in life, genius doesn't necessarily, it has to be perfect in all dimensions. It just means that it has to successfully be able to connect two dimensions that weren't connected before. So this guy found an extra pipe running around. He realized, he probably saw the pipe floating. He's like, this pipe floats. There's a balance issue with my boat. What if I just use this system? And he tried it out, and it's genius. Like this has taught me how to make a raft. Like if I get stuck in an island, I know how to make a proper raft now. You know, hopefully there's bamboo trees. Intelligence is not just something that could be measured as if the person owns it. Intelligence is a response to the environment, and that means it has to do with the alertness and awareness to what is happening in the environment. So you see, like, the difference of building your life in the conscious waking state compared to someone, for example, writing a story only of their life, thinking of their life as only their biography. The thing is, it's based on how well you have studied the context that you're going to allow the concept to change. So if anybody it hasn't discriminated between, like, if you can't separate the concept from the context, you'll believe till the end of your life the same thing. Because you don't want the concept context alignment is so crucial for you. This is why when you, for example, have a philosophical discussion with a very extreme religious person, that after some point that religious person doesn't want to hear it. Why? Because if the context changes too much, the concept is suddenly going to be meaningless. whoever you are listening, everybody is able to find paper, and everybody is able to find a pen. That means if you can't find paper and a piece of paper and a pen, then you can't, the next dimensions of the talk are not going to be open to you. Let me tell you why. Because I thought about the various ways that yogis have come to share the wisdom of the inner realms. And I realized that right now we don't per se need just concepts. We need the skill level of the civilization becoming advanced. That means the concept of enemy, people thinking they have enemies in the world, archaic. That was old school. Now the concept has changed, is we want to alchemically transform the disadvantage to an advantage. I pointed to something earlier in the talk that I said there's something tactical, militaristically, it has nothing to do, it's just if you were a general back in the day in the battlefield, some militaristic tactic in that context is being implemented. You see, they would say when a general and his army would have to face another general, okay? So two generals of two great armies, they wanted to fight. The generals both knew one thing, that if they made the wrong move, there would be a dissonance from the general and the army. So even in Sun Tzu, The Art of War, it's kind of said, you disconnect the general from the army, and then the general becomes weak. The army doesn't listen, you destroy that general. That general loses. So when I'm looking at civilization now, it's weird. This thing about people protesting, not that protesting is weird. Of course, the protesting is justified based on the event that happened. But I'm saying, in regards to the idea of the dissonance, as if some ulterior motive outside of every human being's ideology, there seems to be a strange thing going on where instead of the members of civilization and the administrators of civilization being some grand unified force, instead of having each other's backs, people are pointing out each other's blind spots and declaring war, which is the ultimate foolishness. You see, Gandhi talked about non-violence, That means it's like on some level Gandhi's going to be like, people, what are you doing? Don't give evil a reason. Like, it's something I thought about the protests occurring. It is true that a person needs to declare something to the world, but you can declare it peacefully, because the issue is when it's a violent protest, there is less police enforcement to take care of the city and the nation. Sorry, yeah, these riots, yes. Jason's correcting me in the chat section. Yeah, the term is riots. So these riots that are happening, I understand the emotional impact. Of course, it was a tragedy of our species, one of the most messed up events ever seen, honestly. But like on another level, the issue is we are occupying those who are actually protecting us. So I was thinking, oh my God, if they're sending 100 police officers to go handle the riots, what police officers are there out there to actually protect the crimes when it happens? Do you know? So this is why I was like, Gandhi, we need to bring Gandhi back. Non-violent protest, guys, You don't have to break things to get an idea out, So that's, but it is revolutionary change also has different dimensions to it. That means if you tell the people, if Gandhi was alive during the French Revolution, be peaceful. The French Revolution, people were too starving to be peaceful. They were at the brink of extinction as people, they felt to some degree. Of course, guys, an event, as I said earlier, an event can happen and it sends different waves of different informational patterns to different people, you know. We're not a civilization of clones to 100% agree on everything, you know, but we can see the common world, you know. It's like everybody has access to their inner realm, who they are when they're alone with the cosmos, and they have access to their outer realms, which is recognizing that the world that is like a video multiplayer online video game where we're all suddenly in our, when we wake up in the world, we log into this conscious waking map, virtual map. For me, dialogue is the way. Whoever you are listening to this, the next thing that's going to really revolutionize society is not agenda or instruction or going to war with a certain idea. What's going to help is seeing what different ideas there are out there. The globalization of perspective. To polish and come up with what are the greatest ways to perceive this world. That means just like how so many nations are researching and putting money in their military, they should also put money into constantly coming up what's the most efficient ways that human beings can live. You know, right now, if pollution is an issue, they have to make oxygen tunnels for people or something. Do you know? We have to restore ability in actually a very unknown instrument. This is honestly, this is so cool. I think anybody who realizes this, you will quickly attain mastery in the direction of the honesty of your vision. I'm not joking. This is like the purest thing of life. Okay? When you stop wanting anything from life and at the same time stop diswanting, you stop giving this world a thought. You watch it. You silently watch this world like a movie that you can do nothing about. You are here. You linger with that feeling of the stillness and silence of your attention, and some people, it may happen for them in an instant, and hopefully this talk does its job. But if it doesn't, it means stay with the silence and stillness. If you are suffering, watch your suffering. Observe it, because you have to, we are design travelers. We're traveling through different designs of the three-dimensional space, but we have a rhythmic ability. That mastery is a release of the mind, as if genius was hidden behind its own eyes, you know. When else can the great performance occur? The idea is this, guys. I've envisioned this. This I mean, I'm writing it in a book, but the idea is, I think a great transformation is going to occur, and this great transformation is this. Just like, and it's inspired out of this idea of the Colosseum from ancient Greece and the idea of the School of Athens. I found a way that I suddenly infused to these ideas. I'm like, what if instead it was a coliseum of intellectuals and incredibly alert and conscious people watching a gladiator arena of philosophers debating, you know? That means if you're a billionaire listening to this, please gift the world this idea and go actually build a giant coliseum. Go build the biggest coliseum, way bigger than the one built in ancient Greece. Do you know? And we're going to have in the center of it the greatest ideas of the world, like a gladiator arena fight. I want to create a network that is this whirlpool of the greatest ideas all over the planet. You know? It's a network. The School of Athens 2.0 is a digital coliseum. I mean, technically that's what the internet is doing. You know, the paper, isn't it unique that all religions, if there wasn't paper, there'd be no revelation literally passed on? That means paper is divine. That is where the message chose to come. You know, it chose to manifest through language. Beyond the era of language worship, pure attention pilots. That means for me, there was a view where I thought about who am I, who am I gonna be if I die, if I physically leave this realm? And I then asked, who am I when I'm alive? And I realized both angles I don't know. And it's the I don't know within and the I don't know without that makes the balloon content, regardless of the burst, regardless of the transition. Anyways, guys, you know, you gotta grab a pen, stare at the empty page, and ask yourself what is important in this life. And if there is nothing that comes to your mind, then you're either the Buddha or you must learn from the world. You must still watch the world's words. There's this game, video game, that my brother was playing. It was this idea of Skyrim, this game called Skyrim, where the character had this thing where the character could have a shout, and the shout had power. So there were words of power in the story that you could find. And when I think about life and the power of words, they have the same power as a painting and more paint being dropped on it. Life is endlessly repainting itself. And the mystery stands. And we have to build a civilization that honors the known and honors the unknown. That means whatever you human being you see, if it doesn't matter if they're in their past. If they're in their past, like when I'm with my grandparents, I respect them, and those people I respect, I let their inner realms move first. I mean, of course, not their inner realms, but I mean, like, I don't share from my inner realms, you know. Because the thing is, for example, like, I don't speak about quantum physics with my grandparents, who are 80-year-old and religious people, you know. So when I'm with them, I'm in their room of mind. I try to be, not try to be, but I am who I am. But I try to be attentive to their inner realm. Your mind is an office. Your mind is a dimensional advantage. For me, the inner realms, they don't have a location. They just feel like they're in the air. My thoughts feel to me they're around me. Even though the brain is projecting, is the antenna, but I feel the thoughts are around me. I feel we have mass in a dimension perhaps we can't comprehend. That matter was never matter. It was just one part of the color spectrum. It was a certain range of the electromagnetic uh, spectrum. So why is it that our phone picks up Wi-Fi signals, but we can't see the Wi-Fi signals from the router? But why is it that when we see fireworks in the sky, for example, sensory-wise we receive that signal, but we don't? Because it's in that stage, that range of the electromagnetic spectrum. So you see, we 100% know there is invisible movement. We are just visible, we just have access to a certain range of its visibility. For me, the unknown is space, the known is what's moving in the space. So my mind and awareness and this idea of the soul, I tell people, some people I speak to, they come to me, not that they come to me, but like in conversation, they speak as if the idea of past lives is something that in my school of thought, the soul doesn't have a personality. The soul moves beyond the language threshold in my school of thought. All that design really is constant, is a repetition of effort, and that repetition of effort has to build. That means you can say that really it's as if there is no such thing as instant victory. That everything, you can have a micro analysis of it. The person can think they've just failed, or they can micro zoom in on what did I do wrong, what was the issue, what changed, where did the value of the spectrum come. Well, imagine you're someone who's trying to be the best skilled athlete, but the place you're in, the system is rigged. So you're gonna keep advancing your skill and might be the greatest person, but then you wonder why you don't get the medal, you know? So I'm telling you, it's not just about increasing skill, it's also implementing it in the domain of the world. I'm going to show you something, and I'm going to explain to you how I did it. So whoever's listening, oh, I don't have the picture here actually. Oh man, I forgot I got rid of the files. Okay, hang on there, folks. Hang on. Okay, guys. So whoever's tuned in, if you look at the picture, the wallpaper, you're gonna see something I drew. I drew this 2015. And I want to tell you that when it comes to design, for me, this was something where now you're seeing it as if like from the outside, but it was various micro experiences. I could say drawing every part of this artwork, each part of it was an experience. So it really felt like drawing it felt like climbing a mountain where I never got to the top, to that perfection, but I reached some point of the mountain where I was content with, you know? So I'm telling you, the same philosophy that I'm explaining to you in regards to even Rumi, he would say chaos and order are two wings of the bird. It's as if once you are comfortable looking at the known, and once you're comfortable looking at the unknown, and when you look at the empty page, you're in the inner realms, there's all probabilities allowed. So there is a strange freedom, but it's a freedom oscillating between two dimensions. So I could say certain parts of this picture were consciously drawn. I intended the line to actually go there. Certain parts of the picture, I just looked at it and I'm like, okay, it could be like this, and I drew it. You know, guys, there is a channel called Mr. Within's Art. Whoever likes these talks can go and subscribe to that. There's going to be content on there soon. Um, there's a dimension to my work that I've been keeping hidden, which is the art component, and I'm like, why not? Let me share that. So. And something I wanted to also say, if anybody's an animator out there, feel free to animate some of these stories that I say. You know, it's like a group imagination. I think a concept we haven't thought about before. We've thought about as a group not knowing things, like the collective unconscious. What about a group imagination? Like the advanced civilization, this idea I speak of, it's the grandest thing that our species and civilization can imagine. And something interesting I'm going to tell you about drawing this, guys. I mean, not just based on the paper, but when I draw, the paper is not static. I mean, it depends. Either if the paper is static, I don't have to move around it, but if the paper is static, it's like a canvas, I got to move around it, you know? So this was paper, so I would move the paper in different ways. I would hold it in different ways and draw it. So you know what I mean? So sometimes when in life we look at something as a designer, we can also see the design in different potentialities and in parallel modes. Because the inner realms, that's where the whole parallel lifehood is occurring. It's like, wait a minute. You know, I was talking to someone the other day in the Discord server, and we were discussing this idea of the person was saying they're a thought. Now, my whole school of thought is that man is beyond a thought, that the language has a limit, you know? And the person, I asked them, they said something that they're a thought, and I told them, okay, if you're a thought, then does that mean a thought is remembering another thought? When you remember your past, let's say you think this moment is a thought, so if in this moment you remember your past, does that mean a thought is remembering another thought? You see what I mean? It breaks down. The idea of thought breaks down after some point. So, what I'm trying to say is that there is known ways that the human being can express and unknown ways. And becoming acquainted with the collective mind is more like the Taoistic approach of just like chilling out and seeing how the world is moving, then moving consciously with the world's rhythms. You know, because inspiration is like energy, you know. For me, it's honestly like a signal. If a person is just for 10 to 20 minutes, you just go somewhere and be humble. Go sit on the grass or something. It doesn't matter if you're like a billionaire or the CEO of the biggest company. Just go sit on the grass. You're a human being. Don't forget that. You know. You know, guys. Just for the listeners, just out of my love for the listeners, I'm going to show you another one. This was one I sent for a competition, actually. These have names, by the way. This one's called that. The other one, you see it. Okay, so this purple one is called "Find Me." That's just, I don't know, the inspiration at the time. Now this other one is called "Star Nation," and this one I sent for a contest, and the contest didn't get back to me. By the way, guys, the Mr. Within's art channel, if you just go to the home page and look at the side corner, it's there. This artwork was called Star Nation. But this is my um, channel if you guys want to, if anybody wants to follow in Art Station. I mean, you can see my other work, whoever's interested. Yeah. Just a second, guys. You know, this art feels to me like life. It can be perceived in many angles. It can be a picture that can make sense and can also at the same time be meaningless. Life can be kept seen in even different dimensions based on how you hold the artwork. Guys, there's one I'm gonna share. Hopefully the picture is here. Hopefully I uploaded it. Oh my god. Oh yeah, here it is. No. Is it this one? No. Okay. This one is strange. I give these artworks. I name every artwork, by the way, that I draw. So the one I'm going to show you now is called the Emporium of Epirigano. I don't even know what. Like, it was just a random name my mind fathomed in that moment. You know, the Emporium of Epirigano. I don't even know what that. Maybe it's something subconsciously my mind's picked up. But I'm going to show you this. Is it this? Yeah, perfect. Perfect. This I really like this one. I'm going to show you. Uh, where's the page? Here it is, folks. The Emporium of Epirigano. You see, there was this thing I realized that, you see, it's like I'm using something which I could say it's like a balloon technique, where the gas inside the balloon and the air outside of the balloon are the same. So the lines give dimension to emptiness. The lines divide it, you know. This is the same picture from a different angle. But the thing is, in all these pictures, the way I wrote my signature was the final way I had decided. The angle of the signature. Anyways, so the reason I'm showing you this is to say that life appears as an empty page. You have a conscious mind. The implication of the conscious mind is that we add dimensions. And life is strange, where biologically the dimensions become complex, then become simple. It's like the simple, complex situation going on in the nature of the world. You know? So once you're comfortable with the simple and the complex, or the known and the unknown, the visible and the invisible, then when you sit there holding a pen in your hand, it's as if the moment is its own inspiration, really. And so consciously build your life. It took us 4 billion years to be able to do it. That means enjoying every step on the mountain, not just waiting to get to the top and feel good. That means, think about it, if you just look for the destination of things, that means every step to the mountain is going to be suffering until you get to the peak and you suddenly feel yay. You know, Matsuo Basho says the journey itself is my home. So it's like the one building life is a conscious event. You know, the attention is the pilot's vision. Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope this episode was helpful. Much blessings and namaste.